All right, welcome back. Welcome back. We are live here at the Orlando Sentinel newsroom, again on election night, and man, we've got a lot more results to share with you now. We are going to go first to reporter Kayla O'Brien. She is at the Democratic Party here in downtown Orlando. Kayla, what is the scene like there?
Yeah, so we're here at the Abbey in downtown Orlando, and as you saw in our last live shot, it was a crazy scene inside. Hundreds and hundreds of people were inside. Now they spilled on the outside, including where we are now. You can hear us a little bit better. But there's been tons of people just staring at the stage, listening to local candidates that have won and that are accepting their wins. They're giving inspirational speeches, and when those people file out, those winners, then we're watching the TVs on big, large screens, and people are glued to them because they are hearing these results coming in. A lot of people are talking about Carlos Guillermo. He was here just a few moments ago walking around with everyone. We were also talking about Emily Bonilla, who took over and won her race, as well as a surprise, Stephanie Murphy. A lot of people are very happily surprised about that race. Also, we are talking about all the different amendments that have just come through. A lot of people obviously excited about Amendment 2, the medical marijuana amendment that has just passed, as well as Amendment 1 failing. A lot of people were concerned, and we've been talking to people that were concerned about the language on that amendment. So a lot of members here of the LGBTQ community have been out in strong force, as well as the Latino community here with supporting signs of Hillary Clinton, as well as the local elections. We have some sort of announcement. We've been hearing these periodically throughout the night of them announcing who has won, who has lost. But overall, everyone's a little concerned about Hillary not winning Florida, but the majority here is very positive and looking forward to her eventually becoming the president of the United States. At least that's what they're hoping tonight.
All right. Thank you, Kayla. And so, Scott, let's get back with you. I've got Scott Maxwell here, my colleague. Man, a lot going on here tonight. And I think if there's one overwhelming theme, it is definitely change.
Yeah, I think so. I've been trying to piece it together because some of the results we're seeing are kind of at odds. When I first came on the air with you, Hillary Clinton was doing well. That's not the case.
No longer.
Actually, I think she still did a little better in Seminole than we thought when we were talking about before. But,
sure.
But that's really irrelevant. Yeah, it looks like Trump is going to win here in Florida. Looks likely to win the presidency. But if you look at the theme we're seeing, as you said, change, because the big story locally would be that John Micah, a 24-year veteran, is getting booted for a woman who most people had never heard her name before, Stephanie Murphy, 6 months ago.
And along that same vein, that change flows all the way down to the Orange County Commission, where an incumbent there, longtime incumbent, has served several stints on the Orange County Commission, booted out of office.
Yes, Ted Edwards really got destroyed. I haven't seen the most latest numbers, but I think he was most latest. Sorry, double superlative. Yeah. I think he was about 15 points behind last time I looked. Now, that's a combination of two things. There was a lot of outside money. It was kind of weird. The liberal billionaire George Soros dumped a lot of money into Emily Bonilla, but frankly, I don't think she can get there just by Soros sending out those mailers. It looked like there was a lot of people on the east side of the county, which is an issue you've written a lot about, saying, you know what, we're sick of development. I think generally people would say we're sick of our representatives not listening to us. And in that case, Ted Edwards. So yes, to your point, from the top of the ticket, from Donald Trump taking on the Clinton dynasty, to the local congressman, veteran John Micah getting about it to
25 years gone.
Right, to 12 years for Ted Edwards, which is a long time, getting booted. It does look like voters were in a mood for change.
Now, a couple other races to get to. Marco Rubio, very early call this evening, walked away with the the U.S. Senate seat here in Florida over Patrick Murphy. A couple other big highlights: the solar amendment failed, and the medical marijuana amendment did, in fact, pass. Got the 60% needed. So
smoke them if you got them. It looks like for the second time around, medical marijuana passed. They, as you know, they tightened some of the language here. I also think people just got more comfortable with it. Traditionally, people in America are getting more comfortable with this idea. It's, as you know, it's a lot more strict than the first time around. You have to get an ID from Tallahassee. You have to get doctor's trip. But anyway, yes, I think it had upwards around 70% when last I saw it. And what I think it does show is that people paid attention. Solar sounded great. On the ballot, but newspaper editorial boards, I think, were unanimous in saying this is a bad idea. And even though it sounded good, that one went down, so folks did pay attention.
Editorial boards were also fairly unanimous against Trump, and that doesn't seem to have held.
You are absolutely right.
So there is definitely a break here. I mean, there are people who listened on the amendments and felt like that was the right thing to do, and then on some of these larger races, went their own way.
Well, I've always made been of the opinion that an editorial board endorsement doesn't really have much of an impact in a presidential race. That when you get lower down, like judges, I think, like our editorial board, for instance, usually bats like 90% on judges' endorsements because people look to them for those. But to your point, there's still a big disconnect because it wasn't just our editorial board. I think I checked, and out of the top 100 papers we were looking at, that I think only 2 in the United States endorsed Donald Trump. I think it was Las Vegas and actually Jacksonville just this past week.
Is that right?
Yes, joined the group. So to your point, there's a disconnect between the electorate and newspaper editorial boards.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, I think in the coming days, this election will tell us a lot. Florida technically has not been called for Donald Trump yet.
No.
But it is certainly looking that way.
Yeah, he had about a 200,000 vote lead when I looked up, when I last looked, and the general rule of thumb goes that the later you go in the night, the harder it is to make up the difference. Because even if there's, say, 400,000 votes out there, if you use that number, if you're 200,000 behind, you'd have to get a 300-100 split. It just gets really hard to do. So it hasn't been called for Florida, but I think that the New York Times and some other prognosticators have had basically a percentage likelihood, and it keeps going up for Trump, and I'm talking about to be in the White House overall.
Absolutely.
And it's gone up, and if I was a betting man, and I am, I like Vegas, I would put money on a Trump presidency right now.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, and it's startling how those predictions have turned from just this morning until where we are right now as we're sitting here.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of interesting that the pundit class, and I think I'm talking more about the national one than the local one, never really caught on to this because Trump was viewed as a joke, literally a joke by the Huffington Post, for instance, which only covered him in the entertainment section early on. And every step of the way, he kept proving them wrong, and in some cases, the fact that the media wasn't giving him attention just fired up his supporters even more. And we're going to have well, not a day of reckoning. We're going to have at least 4 years of reckoning with dishonest media and loser candidates over the next 4 years.
That's absolutely right. It's going to be an interesting time for sure. A couple other quick points I want to get to for people who are interested in very local races. 2 incumbents on the Seminole County Commission retain their seats, Bob Delary and Brenda Carey, so no big upsets there.
No, that was, I think their opposition could probably be described as token or not terribly.
Extremely light, yes. Yes.
And in Orange County, there was another race that was going on. There was 2 newcomers that were both vying.
Yes, we should talk about the West Orange race as well.
Betsy Vanderlei, it looks like, beat Bobby Olszewski. And despite Olszewski's endorsement by Johnny Damon and Joey Fatone. That didn't carry the day.
Did not.
I'm going to be watching Betsy Vanderlei because there's a lot of money and outside interests. Among other things, the NRA piloted into this Orange County district race. Orange County commissioners literally do not even have state authority to change gun laws, but something she's done has made her a darling of the NRA, so it's going to be interesting to watch her take office.
Absolutely. All right, well, that is about all we have to share with you for this evening, although there's still a lot to come. Anything else you wanted to get to, Scott?
No, I think that's all I had right now.
All right, so still some numbers to come in, and please keep checking in on OrlandoSentinel.com. We will have the latest. Thanks so much, everyone. Good night.